Hello, annyeonghaseyo and welcome back to my channel. In our previous lessons, we learned how to make meaningful words and meaningful sentences in Korean. Today, we are going to learn how to make negative sentences in Korean. Yes, like no and I don't have and I can't. So let's get into the video. The modern Korean writing system was devised in 1443 during the reign of King Sejong. Before that, Korean used to speak with Chinese characters. Therefore, the Korean consists of two writing systems, that is, sino-Korean and pure Korean. Sino-Korean and pure Korean. Sino-Korean is the one that derives from Chinese characters or Chinese words, and there is a number system according to Sino-Korean, and that is 1, 2, 3, 4. Many of you already know that. And there comes the pure Korean. Pure Korean is 하나, 둘, 셋, 넷. It goes likewise. And why do we need to know the Sino-Korean and pure Korean system? We will know in the middle of the lesson. So let's not waste any more time and get into the negative sentence formation. Today we are going to learn 4 types of negative sentences. 1. No. 2. Don't. 3. Can't. And number 4. Don't have. These are the categories that we are going to learn today. So let's get into the first category, that is no. No is 아니요 in Korean. So let's see an example of it. Are you Mia? If someone asks you this and you're not Mia, 당신, subject marking particle, then the object Mia, and then the question ending 입니까? 당신은 미아입니까? That 입니까 is ending, question asking ending, and we will learn about that in our future lessons. And suppose you want to say that you are not Mia but someone else, and you might be Lisa, then how will you say that in Korean? No. 아니요. I am. 저는, object Mia, and then you are going to I'm not. You want to say you're not Mia, then what will it be? 저는 Mia 아닙니다. You're Lisa, then you will say Lisa입니다. 아니요, 저는 미아 아닙니다. 리사입니다. Let's see another example of it. Are you Korean? 당신은 한국. 한국 is for Korean, and 사람. 한국 사람 basically means Korean person, that is used to define Korean. 한국 사람. 입니까? And you again want to say that you are not Korean, but American. Then how will you say that in Korean? 아니요. 저는 한국 사람 아닙니다. 미국 is for America. We already know that 미국 defines America. Now you wanna say 미국 사람, that is American person or American. 미국 사람입니다. 아니요 defines no, and that no here is 아닙니다. 아닙니다 defines the negative of not, and 아닙니다 is the negative form of 입니다. 입니다. Negative form 아닙니다. Now let's move on to our second category, that was don't. Don't can be said in two ways, and first one is 지않다. 지않다 follows a structure, that is basic structure, that is verb stem plus like I don't eat. Subject comes first, 저는, then the verbs, and we can't use it in this form. We already know that verb needs to be conjugated, so we will take the stem from it, 먹, and we're going to add the 지않다, and 다 needs to be removed as well, so we are going to conjugate it. 저는 먹지 않아요. 저는 먹지 않아요. Let's make another sentence. I don't read. Read is 읽다. 저는 stem of the verb 읽지 않아요. 저는 읽지 않아요. I don't read. That was the second category's first one, 지않다. The another way to make negative sentence with don't category, that is 안. And 안 follows another structure, that is 안 plus verb plus ending. An comes before the verb. So let's see an example of it. Let's look at the same example actually. I don't eat. 저는 안 먹어. You see there, 안 먹어. But in 지않다 form, there that was 저는 먹지 않아요. 먹지 않아요. The verb form, only you take only the stem from the verb, but here the verb needs to be conjugated when you use 안 먹어, and if you want to be polite, you need to add 여 ending. 저는 안 먹어요. Then comes I don't read. 저는 안 읽어요. To be formal, 저는 안 읽어요. Now here comes the Sino-Korean and pure Korean systems, why you needed to know that. Jiantha can be used in Sino-Korean and also in pure Korean words. In both cases, jiantha is acceptable, but the an cannot be used with sino-Korean word. An can be only used with pure Korean words. Suppose 심심하다. It's a pure Korean word. It can be conjugated either with jiantha or with an. So see, 심심 하지 않다. 심심하지 않다 with jiantha. And if you want to conjugate it with an, it also be done. It can also be done. An 심심해요. But if you look into another word, that is 공부하다, that means to study. 심심하다 means to be bored. 공부하다 is to study, and it's a Sino-Korean word. Can only be made negative with jiantha. 공부하지 않다. If you don't know when to use an or when to use jiantha, the best is to use jiantha always, as jiantha is applicable to both Sino-Korean and pure Korean. Now let's move on to our next category. The third category is can't, that is 못 in Korean. How will you say I can't speak in Korean? How will you say this sentence in Korean? 저는 한국어 못해요. 저는 한국어 못해요. 못해요. 하다 is the verb here, and 하다 means to be. So in this sentence it means you are not good in Korean. 저는 한국어 못해요. You can't speak Korean. And you can also say I can't speak Korean well. The word for well is 잘. Then you'll say 저는 한국어 잘 못해요. 저는 한국어 잘 못해요. I can't speak Korean well. Now, here is the difference between jiantha or an and 못해요 or 못. Jiantha or an can also mean don't or can't, but 못 means basically can't. Jiantha means don't, you don't have, and moth means you can't, you don't have the ability to do the things. That's why that is the thing that defines moth. And jiantha or an means you have the ability but you're not going to do that, you are not going to do that. That is jiantha or an. You have to understand the basic difference when to use jiantha or an and when to use moth. Let's move on to our last category of today, and that is don't have. Don't have in Korean is 없다. That is the negative form of 있다. 있다 means to have, and 없다 means to not have or don't have. Suppose you wanna say I don't have a car. The word for car is 차 or 자동차. So let's make it in Korean. 저는 자동차 object marking particle 를 자동차를 없어요. 없어요. Likewise, verbs needs to be conjugated, and 없어요 is the conjugated form of 없다. 저는 자동차를 없어요. I don't have a car. That was the 4 types of negative sentence making in Korean. Let's see. Let's make a review. Do you like kimchi? 김치를 좋아요. 김치를 좋아요? Then you might want to say no. I don't like kimchi. Then how will you say it? 아니요. 김치를 안 좋아요. or 좋아하지 않아요. You can use the both format if the verb is pure Korean, but in the case of sino-korean, you can only use jiantha. Then I can't go today. 저는 오늘 가지 못해요. Then you might want to say I don't have a cat. How will you say it? 저는 cat is 고양이가 없어요. 저는 고양이가 없어요. I don't have a cat. Okay, that was all for today. Hope you like the video, and if you like the video, then give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel. Thank you.